All right, welcome back to Market Day Report. I'm Scott Shellady, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. Thank you very much for tuning us in. Hey, we've got a lot going on again today. Markets are moving. Why don't we see how things have started? This is the halfway point. I've taken the baton from Mr. Chris Swift. Let's bring up the corn board and see what that looks like here today. Well, look at this. We've got some wind beneath the wings of corn, making a run towards that $5 level. We do see some fives out the defers, but the D's right now, let's go to the March. March right now, 482 3/4, up 7 cents to 4, with a range of about 9 cents. So 482 3/4, that's up 7 cents. And we're close to about 1.5 cents away from the high, right? So there you go. That's going to give you an idea of 1.5 cents away from the high of a 9 cent range. And we're 6 3/4 cents higher on the day. There you go. All right. That's corn. So that looks pretty good. We were up a little bit during the radio show here, but beans, they're coming off. So a little bit of reverse of what we did the last few days. We got jam beans down 2 3/4 cents, 13.44 even now, actually, down 3 cents at 13.44 even. And again, that's about 4 3/4 cents off the low of the day. We've had a decent range, I suppose, over there by about 12 cents. So that's not really that great of a range, is it? No. March is down 3 1/4 cents, 13.62 1/4. But we've had, about a 12-cent range. Let's move over to see what the Chicago wheat market's got for us. Wheat's going to be higher. Here we go. March up 7 cents to 5.92 3/4, making a move towards that $6 line. We're only about 2 1/4 cents off the high of the day, and that's at a 13-cent range. So 2 1/4 cents off the high of a 13-cent range. There you go. That's 7 cents higher on the day. That's Chicago wheat. That's the March contract. Let's go from Chicago to Kansas City. That's up 8 cents in that March contract to 6.42 1/4. And again, that's about a penny and a half off the high of the day there. So that's not bad, right? We got a 14-cent range. So a lot similar than we saw in Chicago. We're up 8 1/4 cents to 6.42 1/2. That's the March contract. In Kansas City, the old hard red. And from Kansas City, let's go to Minneapolis. Well, 4.5 cents higher in that March contract to 7.29 3/4. That's close to the high of the day by about 3/4 cent. Not bad. We've had about, I'm going to call that a 9-cent range. Exactly. And that's March spring wheat, Minneapolis, 9-cent range. We're up bumping against it by about 1/2 cent. That's 4 3/4 better on the day. And then finally, let's take a look at cotton. We'll get to our next guest analyst. What does cotton have for us? Well, that March contract's up 11 points to 79.70, trying to put an 80 in front of that one. We've lost it. We have been there about 55 points ago, but we backed off a little bit here. So we're right in the middle of the day's range. We're up 12 points. That's March cotton. All right, let's bring in our next guest analyst. That'll be Joe Barker, coming to us from CHS. Joe, thanks for being on the show today. What are your thoughts here? Anything stick out at you? What say you?
Well, it was a marketing year high in corn, and so we certainly see the support showing up in corn. Again, we had the big sell-off last week, and that brought in export buyers. Of course, the biggest buyer was our friends at Unknown, but it was kind of a plethora of who bought it. It was Mexico, Japan, Taiwan, China, Colombia, all showed up as buyers in the corn, and that was really, really good to see. We had a good export sales in wheat. That's also supporting the wheat market, so that's good to see as well. Basically, feels like we got cheap enough. We found some demand, so that's good in there. On the beans, just kind of treading water here. Beans have been led by meal for the last few weeks, and there's no support for meal here today. We are hearing a few reports of bird flu. Those have been out in the media, but it's a little concerning for what that could mean to meal demand. And with meal just basically flat here, January's down $1.70, which was not much of a move for meal at all. Beans are just kind of treading water as we go. Over in the livestock, we have seen a little bit of bounce in the hogs, specifically February hogs back above that $71 level. It's nice to see. In the cattle, I've heard reports of a 173 bid out of Texas. Futures are well below that, so I'm a little bit surprised there, but we are weaker in the cattle. Plenty of volatility in the cattle the last few days. In the outside markets, crude oil, even though we got the OPEC cuts, wasn't as much as the market was expecting. Maybe a classic buy the rumor, sell the fact, because we are down $2.30 in crude oil here today.
Yeah, that's a big one. That'll help with some of our costs. I mean, for weather down in South America, that's been a big driver of soybeans as of late. What does that look like to you going out to maybe the next week or two?
I mean, I'm going to use the word moderating, right? It's becoming a more normal year for the South American weather. It's not as extreme as it was. The analysts we've seen, we've still got some above 160, and we got some other privates in like the 158 range for Brazil. And we've heard some talk of increased acres in Argentina because of the delayed planting on the corn. We could see more bean acres out of Argentina. So everything down there is kind of moderated. It's not as extreme and as scary as it was a couple weeks ago.
And so settle down as we go into the last month of this year. And then having said that, real quick, what do you hear on input prices if we start talking about next year now?
Well, fertilizer prices are down from where they were last year, and that's good to see. But the price ratios are, the new crop, NOV 24, DEES 24, soybean versus corn ratio sitting at 252, which is typically enough for economics to see farmers shift some acres into beans. We've seen plenty of private estimates that have started to ramp up the soybean acres for new crops. So even though the inputs are down, the price ratios are at a level where most people are expecting more beans next year, maybe 3 million acres shift from corn to beans next year.
All right, that's great stuff. Love to hear it. Thank you very much, Joe Barker. He comes to us from CHS up in Inver Grove Heights. We're going to go away and pay some bills. We're going to pick up where Joe left off talking about the livestock. We'll be right back after this.